Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another amazing episode of the Brave Entrepreneur Podcast. I am your host, Jena Rodriguez, and I am your business and personal growth strategist. I love helping people move from resistance and fear to resilience and getting their brave on and scaling up their life, as well as in scaling up and speaking up in their business, and really helping them find the harmony between life and business. And I always call it synergy, right? Finding the synergy, because 2 + 2 = 5 when you find the synergy. So without further ado, I'm so excited about my friend today. Yvonne Larson is with me, and we're going to have an amazing conversation. 2 words I want to dive into that she shared with me was resilience. So her and I have that in common. And Queen Esther. And I'm like, we're going to figure out what that's all about. So stick with us. And if you like what you hear, certainly share it, love it, like it, put a review on iTunes. We would just love to hear from you and know how this is impacting your world. So welcome, Yvonne. How are you? I'm so excited to see you.
Jena, oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be here. I have, speaking of our topic today, right. I'm faced with fear from time to time, and coming on your podcast, and as we've discussed before, you said you're a recovering perfectionist, and I tease I haven't found that 12-step program yet.
I'll provide it to you, I promise.
But I've progressed a little while to be on your podcast, because I really am, my commitment is always to bring excellence to everything. So it really is way bigger than perfectionism, but just like bringing excellence, bringing lots of value, like making sure that what your listeners are really interested in learning about, like I'm helping them get, be bigger, bolder, and braver in their world. Yes. So I'm pretty excited to be here today.
Yeah, for sure. I do. I love that, I love that you're up to excellence. Like, I think that's powerful. And I'm a recovering perfectionist myself. And I'm sure I've gone through 12 or 20 steps at some point. And it just is that let go, and it's surrender, it's freedom to be on the other side of, and I know you and I are not the only ones in this conversation about And I'm like, one of the bravest things we can do is just do it anyway, right? Just step out there regardless of it. Yeah.
And be honest. I feel like, when that it's not like, okay, I'm just not going to do that anymore. It's more like being authentic and owning it when it does come up. And it's funny, like the moment that you embrace that that's what's coming up and stop attempting to resist it, just call it out. And it's like gone. So then you can move forward. So yeah.
I love that. Love that. Well, I am sure we just rung a few bells. So it's great. Yeah. I just want to give people some context. Like, we met through a dear friend, Michelle, of both of ours. And then I am so excited because when this airs, I will be in California, and I will live like 10 minutes from you. So what a way, kind of like crazy way our lives are going to intertwine and come together. And I just think it's so cool, that life just starts to be such an adventure, and people and relationships. It's just really cool. And speaking of moving to LA, because I'm coming from Houston, you're actually from Houston. And then we found out that my childhood friend, who I've known since I was 4 years old, went to high school with you.
No.
Church.
Right?
Yes.
And apparently you and I went on some church trips to
I think we met
World, whatever, together. And I'm like, really? If it's meant to be, it will be.
It will be, even if it takes 10. We're young. 10 years, right? We're not that old. Yeah. And I just think that's such a beautiful thing. I was like, because I tagged along with our friend Kim, and I am sure we've crossed paths before, but it's so interesting how it all's coming together. So we have to count our blessings when those kind of amazing things happen.
Absolutely.
So super excited. So moving forward, I would love, speaking of, like I said, moving to LA, you have a story around that yourself, because you were living in the Houston area as well. So just kind of guide us into that experience and what that bravest thing you ever did that brave story that you shared with me earlier, and just what it was all about, and how did you make it happen?
Oh my gosh.
Without perfectionism, I know that's number one.
And then I also struggle with being succinct.
Right.
That's what a challenge. So, in Houston, I began as, I want to go just to back a little bit further than that. I'm going to go back to high school, but I'm not going to stay there long. There was like multiple things that I was interested in: being a physical therapist, being a psychotherapist, being, an entertainer. At one point I wanted to be a judge, like there was all of these things, but I believe they were all like service oriented,
right.
And, like allowing people to become awake and alive in the world. And, so when I did start off to college, it was to become a physical therapist. And there was something that just wasn't resonating with me around that. And then I ended up getting a degree in radio, television, and film production.
Wow.
With a short diversion as a full scholarship music major.
And I know you can sing, girl. I've seen you sing.
Yes,
oh my gosh.
Yes. I can sing the entrepreneurial blues song if we have time. That'll be fun at the end if there's time. But and if not, just whatever, we'll do it later, some other time on a live stream. Yeah. So it's lots of fun. So when I actually got to like mid-20s, I heard of this thing called massage, and I was like, what? And I was so excited because it allowed me to do what I would have as a physical therapist without all of the constraints of being in the medical
Yes.
world. And I got to have like more heart-to-heart connections with people.
Yeah.
And serve them where they're at versus some kind of protocol that was being imposed upon me.
Got it.
What I have found over the years is that the place that I come from actually allows people very quickly to go very deeply with me. Like I mean, since I was 9 years old, people referred to me as mom. Like people just came to me with their stuff. And so I have like some kind of energy or presence that allows people to feel comfortable and safe. And so like, I've just been able to go really deep with a lot of my people over the years. And what that's allowed for me to do is take what I started with in massage, which was emotional release work, and continue to expand on that. So, the first 3 years of my practice was in Houston, and I, was so incredibly blessed. Things are very different in LA when it comes to my field. In Texas, they set you up with an internship. So I went through school, did my 41 hours, and I had clients. And those clients told people. And in 3 years, I went from 0 clients to 600 clients.
Wow.
No networking, no marketing, no advertising, no problem. Right?
Yep.
I had a waiting list. I had people that were angry because they couldn't get in, So when my 30th, I'm just going to disclose, we aren't spring chickens, but,
right.
But we live as though we are, and look that way too. But anyway.
Exactly.
So when 30 was approaching, I had this deep, like, I don't even know what to call it. Like this, like, it was an ache in my heart, like this, like, deep concern that, like, oh my gosh, like, singing is this gift that I discovered when I was 9. And like, everyone has always commented on that, like, that is what you should be doing. And so I was like, oh my God, the last thing I want to do is be 80 and turn around and go, why didn't I ever just throw my hat over the fence?
Right.
And so at age 16, I thought that meant I'd be in New York, right?
Yeah.
But at age 30, I went to LA for a 4-day trip with a boyfriend and went, what is this magical place? I know that you're going to relate to this because Houston is hot and humid. So my only experience of the sun was misery.
Yeah, it's a lot to handle right now in the middle of summer.
Yeah, I got here and I was like, oh, it's cool and crisp in the morning and in the evening. And during the day, it's amazing to be outside. And what is this pink flower all over the place? And they landscape the freeways. I was like, I couldn't get over this place. And so, magical things happened. And, this little 4-day was just crazy. We ended up, we didn't have an invitation, but we ended up at the Golden Globes.
Wow.
And then the next day, I was like, that's it, I'm doing this. And then the next morning, a friend said, the boyfriend had already left town and had left me, in town with his friends. And he's like, oh, well, my friend has a house. They're moving out. You can move in. I'm like, let's go check it out. And it was like 500 deposit, 500, first month's rent. So I was basically paying out $1,000. And I'm like, oh, I can't believe I'm doing this.
Wow.
And then oh, actually, no, I'm sorry. I've left out a critical thing. I'd already been checking out places because this wasn't actually our first trip to LA. It was our second trip. So I'd already checked out places in LA that I knew I wouldn't have a client base. So I'm like, I'm going to have to go to work for someone. And I couldn't
the worst thing ever.
Find anything that would allow me to afford living here. And so I actually did walk into a place that once they heard my credentials back in Houston, they hired me on the spot. And when I walked out to the car with the friend, I was like, they just hired me. And they told me if I want the job, I need to be here the first Monday of March, 2001. And I'm like, I don't live here. And that's, how about this? And then we went there and then I signed and I literally had to catch the plane at 4. And I'm at the airport and I'm sitting here stunned, what am I doing? I was excited and exhilarated and fearful. And it's just the flip-flop, two sides of the same coin.
Always.
Called my mom. I was like, Mom? And I told her what was going on. She's like, that is awesome. She's like, that, if things are meant to be, that's how it unfolds. All of the barriers and the obstacles are removed. She's like, this isn't your doing.
Right.
And I was like, I was able to board my plane and be okay with it. And the next month, it was the shortest month of the year, February, right? I had to get everything handled. And when I moved here, it was a different story. The landscape of my field was far less respect for the field. In Houston, I feel like people related to me like I'm a health and medical professional. And out here, the requirements were much lower, just 100 hours. And I already had 1,000. Actually, within the first 3 years, I had already acquired 10,000 hours. I'd already reached mastery in my field in the first 3 years.
Nice.
And I moved here and I'm competing with people that have 100 hours. And that's actually how I was interacted with. So building from scratch was an experience. That was,
and here you are.
Yeah, it took a lot of brave.
A lot of brave. And I would gather, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but were there moments where you second guessed your decision? Or did you just stay the course?
I think it was blind, young, dumb faith.
Well, we should take note of that.
I was just so exhilarated. Things have changed a lot since I've moved from Houston. In Houston, especially being in Mary Kay, you don't leave the house without your hair and makeup done. And
right.
So, I was up every single morning playing U2, It's a Beautiful Day, and I'm putting on my makeup and I was like, I don't know, I need to get out this door. There's someone out here I'm going to go meet and things are going to happen. And, so
that's
keep
awesome.
in mind, it wasn't just the massage business. When I moved out here, it was I'm here for my music.
Yeah, right.
you know, so it was, you know, it took a little while for the shiny to wear off.
Reality to set in. No, you know, but I think that's also a point to anchor, is that it's how we feel, right, that creates the vibration of what we attract or have or see or experience. You know, we create all that. And so you stayed in that exhilaration, you stayed in that space of good energy.
Yes.
And so of course it, you know, rolled out, and maybe, you know, twists and turns and not what you expect and all those things may have shown up, but you're able to just like be with it and not resist it per se, as we've mentioned.
Yeah. And by getting out of the house, crazy things happened. Like I met someone on like a Sunday, and then the following Friday, I'm on a lot on Sony Studios doing massages. And then like the following weekend, I'm on some private, you know, shoot doing movies and not just doing massages at this thing, but actually being an extra in the movie.
I love it.
And, you know, another like driving down the road, you know, pulling up to a stop sign and looking over to my left, and it's Rod Stewart, and I'm like, oh, hi. You know, so it was just like, to me, like little signs like, you're doing the right thing. You're doing the right thing. Keep it up. You're doing the right thing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. And that's, I mean, I am experiencing that as well. Just even the decision to move out to California for many different reasons, and all great reasons, for sure. So to circle back, because it was my fault. I forgot to ask you, because I was so excited to get into your story. Tell everyone what you do now.
Yes. So thank you for circling back, because once I got here, I discovered coaching.
Yes.
And it was such an amazing complement to the emotional release work, because I was already engaging in conversations to get to the source of what was stuck in the body, what was lodged in the body.
Yeah.
So, you know, the first 3 years was just emotional release work. And then for now for the last 22 years, it's been layered with coaching. You know, and so I have my certifications in life coach and business coach and NLP and Reiki and time therapy and hypnotherapy and, you know, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, in our world, we're surrounded with a whole bunch of people who are mentors or coaches. And what's really critical is to know what, you know, like in Mary Kay, like, what is your sizzle? And so what is that thing that I am like just an expert at? And it's a little mind blowing that, you know, you can't see the forest for the trees.
Right.
Until someone says, this is you, you're this tree.
Yes.
And so I was doing, you know, recently some, you know, some interviews, top 5, you know, friends and top 5 clients. Like, what are my strengths? What are my, you know, 4 different questions. And in some way or another, they all reflected back to me tenacity, bounce back ability, resilience, taking every negative and turning it into a positive. Like nothing ever keeps you down for long.
Yeah, it's not that we never get down. It's how we react to that, right? How we bounce.
Like one person was like, your life is challenging, but it's also charmed. You know, and it's like you're saying, getting that headspace correct. So then it hit me. The work that I've been doing with this thing that I invented 22 years ago, the brain activator massage, that deals with the autonomic nervous system. That is your sympathetic nervous system and your parasympathetic nervous system.
Yes.
Your parasympathetic nervous system, just so people are on the same page with us, is responsible for your relaxation response. And your sympathetic nervous system is your stress response. And the space between those two things is called your resilience zone. I've been doing this for 22 years. Oh my God. Right?
Yeah.
And there's different aspects of that. So like there's resilience with that, with your autonomic nervous system, but then there's also a world of resilience. You know, like what does that look like when something comes your way? Like how do you manage your movement between stress response and relaxation response?
Yes.
The quicker that you can move from stress response back into relaxation response, the quicker that you can maintain use of your entire brain.
Got it.
So your, you know, listeners are unaware of this, when your sympathetic nervous system, your stress response gets triggered, the blood flow is reduced because you're ready to take some kind of action, right? Fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah. Yes.
And so the blood is reduced to the brain. And when that happens, the blood isn't going to your prefrontal cortex. So you are no longer making decisions with your highest good in mind. You're not operating with your whole brain.
Got it. Yeah.
Back into relaxation response, you can make more rational decisions that are in alignment with your purpose, your mission, and your vision.
I love that. I'm so excited. Number one, I don't have obviously the training in all of the body functionality, right? Like you do. However, I've recently, in the last like 6 months and such, have been studying and hearing about the parasympathetic and the sympathetic, and understanding that and realizing I basically was living in sympathetic. And what I did to shift that, and I'd love to know what you do or what you recommend to your clients, and maybe it's the same, is I meditate. Yeah. Meditation has and I'm noticing like there's, some stressors per se, like things going on right now. And I'm like, and I'm not getting my meditation in, and I'm noticing the change like that too. And so it's like, okay, so this is, I believe wholeheartedly this is what's happening. Yeah. And I love that you're bringing in the conversation, because it's definitely one of mine, is alignment. And how do we get to that alignment, and how do we feel connected to our decisions from a place of alignment and full heart-centered, and to explain it from a place of brain usage or not, right? Yeah. Is so perfect right now. So this is such a good conversation to have.
So, to sum it all up, what I'm declaring myself in the world to be is a resilience mastery mentor. So I am taking people through the neuroscience of resilience. I'm taking them through boot camp, brain boot camp. I'm taking them through all of these different things so that you can identify what the triggers are that are throwing you into stress response, how you constructed your life that is perpetuating those stressors getting triggered. How do you dismantle it? So I know at some point we'll talk about entrepreneurship without overwhelm, but like that is the process that I take people through, to have them set their life up so powerfully that, we haven't gotten to this, but I say that courage and brave are like siblings.
Siblings, yes.
Okay.
You can go there.
So like courage, you have to, you do little things ongoingly, and that's coupled with the resilience. So you're doing little things ongoingly. That's like preparing for the marathon. Brave is your time to put it into action. Like brave is running the marathon. Yeah. So you don't just show up brave. You do the work of courage so that you can be brave when the time presents itself.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, that analogy I think is really powerful, so people can really start to see that courage is the muscle, right? It's building that muscle. It's training for the marathon. And yet for me, I always believe, especially entrepreneurs, I believe we are brave masters underneath it all. Just the fact that we moved to LA, we say yes to a business, we say yes to coaching now, which is different than what we've been doing for 20 years. Whatever it is that you're saying yes to, but you've been doing the work up until that decision, And so I always talk about brave in two lights also. And there's brave by survival and brave by choice. And I believe, my first half of my life, because there were so many hardships, and maybe even now this is even more power. I just saw this, is that what if that's also a correlation with the parasympathetic and sympathetic, meaning survival inside of the sympathetic conversation, brave by choice. Because for me, brave by choice is sometimes what I call the harder one, because you're not being pushed up against fight or flight or freeze. You're not being pushed into this corner and like do something. Right. And then half of your brain takes over instead of your whole brain or whatever.
Absolutely. I agree. I absolutely agree. By choice is when you're in relaxation response. And when you're forced to, it's absolutely stress response.
Yeah. So brave by survival, right? And I was in that survival mode for so long. So people look back and go, how did you move out at 14? How are you homeless at 21 and then find your way out of that? And I'm like, survival? I'm like,
what I had to do.
So brave. And I'm like, and it was, but it was the different kind of brave, right? And now in this season of life, you and me both, we get to choose into that. We get to choose our alignment. And I think that's where the gift and the charmed life really starts to open up and expand, is when you can get to that place. So I'm so excited that you have stepped into this resilience mastery conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's needed. I think it's needed. I think we have to have a bigger conversation, about it. So, okay. So now let's get to Queen Esther. What is Queen Esther? I'm leaving everybody hanging.
Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, the time.
I know. Tell me about Queen Esther.
What Fantasy Island, the little guy, the plane, the time. So, basically, as a child, I was infatuated with Queen Esther. I was just blown away that this woman, to me, she was just like what I wanted to grow up and be in the world. Like, she had such grace, such discernment, such wisdom. And it was just incredible that, she went from being an orphan, having her cousin raise her, and then ending up the queen, and and being in some very challenging situations where she was absolutely confronted with life or death situations. Like, she in order to facilitate saving her people, she had to go request the presence of the king without being called, and that was means for being killed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Way serious. Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's basically, you need to actually be in a very grounded place to take a stand for what it is that, you're committed to. So, when it comes to Queen Esther, the resilience thing really comes into play, because you have to be aware of the desire. So what is the intention? What is the big picture of what it is that you're going after? Right. And then there's this distinction that is going to sound a little jolting, but play. So play for me is a distinction of curiosity, openness, receptivity, asking for guidance. That's your prayer and meditation. But just you're not a know-it-all. You have to play. Kids play all the time. They don't have it figured out. Play is that, that ability, that muscle to to play until you find out what works. Can fail forward fast. That is play. And then courage, as we were discussing, it's the little things, it's the little steps, it's leveraging fear, as we've discussed, leveraging fear so that you can find out what that fear is telling you. So is that fear a welcome warning? Are you really, really in danger? Okay, great. You need to take the appropriate action. Is it, something that it's not really, you're not really prepared, and there's some things that you need to actually take care of. You're about to take an uncalculated risk. In Esther's case, she wasn't. She went to the prayer and meditation. She sought counsel from her cousin. So everything that she was doing was very time-based, what is the appropriate time? What is the proper procedure? Just really allowing herself to receive those messages. And then that last moment of delivering the critical information, that required the courage, and then also the resolve, this just has to be done. And then really the faith that you have done everything there is to do up until that point, and you have zero control over the outcome.
Right.
Okay. But you have faith that because you have stood up for what's right, that however it goes, it is the right way. Yeah. And in her situation, everything went really well.
Thank goodness.
And yes. In the entrepreneurial world, sometimes it doesn't look like it's going right, but then we find out months, weeks, years later, like, oh, wow, that is absolutely exactly how it was supposed to go for me to show up powerfully in the world and be of service and support the people that I'm meant to serve and support in the world. So that's like, you know, I'm so in awe of that particular Bible character.
Yeah, you know, I love that. And I love that you draw inspiration from that in a way that, you know, just keeps you grounded in what that is. Like, what is it, you know, what are those components of that story? And, you know, and I think it's really indicative of, like you said, what entrepreneur is all about. And I know you've been there and I have even recently. It's like this feeling like things are really changing and churning, and of course I'm like moving across the country, and you know, like on purpose, you know, I mean, clearly it's a brave by choice, and yet it does test the resolve, it tests the play and exploration, it tests the courage, it does all of that, and yet it's still all in my favor. In the long run, there's going to be this point where it's like I look back and go, of course, right? Of course I needed to see that. Of course I needed to experience all that so that now I'm more for the people, like you said, the people we serve. So I just really appreciated that. I'm glad you had that to share. And it just is so powerful to see and get to know your story, and like to really see what you have been able to create. I call it gut and faith, right? Following your gut instinct and following it with faith and listening and allowing it to be great, allowing it to be charmed, and even amongst the challenges. So I think that's really awesome.
The same gift, just different wrapping.
So true, right? Just a different bow color.
Yeah.
Right? Just a little different bow. It's so good. So in this space, I would love for people to connect with you. I want people to know what you're up to and how you can help people really step in and lean into their resilience as well, so they can have bigger and better outcomes. What is the best way for them to connect with you?
The best way for them to connect with me is to go to Entrepreneurship without Overwhelm.com. I know that's really long.
Easy to spell, though.
Entrepreneurship. Get your E's and your U's in order.
Right. Look it up. Without Overwhelm.
Yeah. Without Overwhelm.com. And that actually will take you to the Facebook page for Entrepreneurship Without Overwhelm. And you can DM me, because I do have a webinar that will be coming out very soon. And basically it's, what is it? The truth behind entrepreneurship, how to dissolve overwhelm. And why am I forgetting the rest of my title?
I see it. Master fulfillment and optimize your life. That one.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Yes. Could you repeat that more eloquently?
Yes. The truth behind entrepreneurship, what you must know to dissolve overwhelm, master fulfillment, and optimize your life. So
beautiful.
Perfect.
Yes. So if you're interested in, getting the neuroscience and the brain boost boot camp basics and all of that kind of stuff, so that you can start building your resilience, DM me and we'll get you signed up for that webinar, free webinar.
Yeah. Amazing. And I think you're a testament, the result of resilience, right? So for people, going, well, what's that going to get me? And it's like, this is what's possible, is like a business that works, a life that works, and a career that you get lit up by, right? And so, congratulations.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It'll give you those 5 things. You'll be able to tap into your desire, play, courage, resolve, and faith.
Perfect.
So you'll have resilience on demand.
I know, that's awesome. You should push the easy button.
Resilience on demand.
I love it. Oh my gosh, this has been great. Thank you so much for spending time with me and with our audience. And if you would, I have one last question that I like to ask everyone. And it wasn't on the form. Oh
no! You're really testing my perfectionism.
Think into it. Okay. Is if this was your last interview, this was your last chance to spread the message that you really want to spread to the world, and never to be spoken again, what would you tell the world? What would you want them to know? Oh, goodness. Okay. So my mission is to end suicide amongst entrepreneurs. So one of my favorite sayings is one by Dolly Parton, where she says, don't get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life. My
wish for every one of your listeners is to show up so powerfully with the people in your life where you see, hear, and get them, and create a space of that for people so that they know that they matter and they can like actually live the calling that they were put on this earth to live. It's just so critical that we stop being so busy to be present.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. Just awesome.
Thank you.
So perfect. back to our perfectionism. So perfect.
Okay.
Thank
I got
you.
it right.
I know, on the spot. No, that was beautiful, beautiful. And I really second that. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. And that's what we'll end on. And so thank you for being here. Thank you everyone for listening. If you got value, please love, like, and share. And until next time, let's go get our brave on. Bye. Yeah.